Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. It's such a pleasure to be able to speak to you today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm good. I'm good. Just another week. Yeah, but good.
Maybe you could just kick off with a brief introduction. Obviously, it's already out there in the world, but maybe for people who haven't watched it yet, what can you tell people that they can expect from Somewhere Boy?
Yeah, Somewhere Boy is about a boy named Danny who's 18 years old. He's trapped in a house with his father for the first 18 years of his life, and something happens to his father, and he finally gets out in the world for the first time, and he discovers the noisy, confusing world as we see it, but he's never seen it because his world is just the 1940s slash 50s music and films. So he is launched into this our world, the ordinary world, and he lives with his aunt and his cousin who's never met before, and he basically finds out the truth of how his mum died and various other things. But that's the basic premise of it. Yeah.
And of course, it kind of mixes lots of different genres in a way. There's kind of a hint of thriller in there. It's a family drama. When you first read Pete Jackson's script, what really sort of spoke to you or resonated with you, and particularly about the character of Danny?
Um, just that he was just unusual and he was a bit out of place. I think that was just really interesting. I hadn't really seen too many like real outsiders, but like a literal outsider in the sense of the ordinary world. I thought because normally you see the whole outsider perspective from someone who's normal in a futuristic world or a different type of world than we are used to. So I just thought that was so fascinating that suburbia was the extraordinary. So I found that quite interesting, and I just thought how dark it was and how emotional it could get. I just thought it was really great writing, and I just really loved every character felt so rich and had a purpose to the story. So I just really wanted to be part of it from the moment I read it. And Danny was just a great character. Danny was just, you know, just so unusual, and so different, and but very sincere. And there was a lot of complexity there. And I hadn't read something like that before, so I thought it'd be great to audition for something like that. And thankfully, I did, and I got it. So yeah.
And how did you prepare to play him? Because I don't know if you could find any sort of common ground with him, or elements of the character that you could relate to. Of course, trying to get yourself into the mindset of how would you feel if you hadn't really stepped outside in 18 years, and trying to kind of channel that. So doing something very mundane, becoming kind of extraordinary, like just standing outside and watching the birds or whatever.
Yeah. No, it was just the whole thing of just like I think I've always felt a bit like an outsider myself when I was growing up in school and in just social situations when I was younger. So that kind of really helped me connect with him. And I just thought like even though it's completely different, because very few people have probably had that life of being trapped in one place and then living in a completely our world, So I just thought about what kind of stuff you would inhabit with that kind of stuff, and how you would relate to all of that. How I just related to how I've always felt when I was like first got fell in love, first found friendship, first like went to a pub, first tried to socialize with other people my own age. So I connected as much as I could to just all the personal stuff really, and then just it came from that. That was my gateway in, and then I just kept in the accent the whole time as a way of further getting in the mindset of him really, which was great.
Was the accent something difficult to you to come naturally? I mean, how much have you done British accents before? English,
Um,
sorry.
I know I've only been Scottish my whole life. I've never tried to audition for anything with other accents. I've never wanted to. This was forced upon me. I had to do it because they cast Sam first. No, I've tried to audition for other things with accents, but this is the first time one I got. Um, and I kind of knew the accent. I've done it before, and I've listened to it a bunch. I mean, I've watched Ladhood, and I watched Ackley Bridge and Brassic, which are all shows set in the north of England. So I had an idea of how to sound it, but I still got an accent coach. I still prepped it, and I kept in the accent the whole time because I was like, I wanted to kind of really be invested in the character and make it believable. And I didn't want to second guess myself when I was doing it, so I just thought to become Danny, it's a part of him. So I just had to do that. I felt it was necessary to just stay in accent the whole time.
Did you get any flack from your Glaswegian family or friends? If you accents or not really?
No, actually, no. I was expecting some online or something when it came out, or just I thought I'd get one person saying that's not how we sound, but no, it's just been. It was I got off scot free, so I've been quite lucky.
And then working with Pete Jackson, you were saying there about the writing, and he does seem to have a very kind of unique voice. And I was sort of reading a bit about him, and how she's come to writing quite late in his life, and that's all right to mention. That I think it's his first sort of session out of AA that he sort of picked up a pen.
Yeah.
What was it kind of like working with him? It sounds like a really interesting guy, but also very passionate, and it perhaps feeds through to the writing, that it kind of comes from the heart somehow.
Yeah, it's just Pete. Pete just writes stuff that's so different and just felt so. Just the way he made the ordinary and the observation because even though it's not a comedy by any stretch of the imagination, just the funny little lines he says about Instagram or boys' fascination with pornography and stuff like that. It's just it was just so creatively done, and I just thought the way he kind of towed the line between moments of joy and then darkness and then happiness, then darkness, then moments of where they're just there's purity, and then it's all gone to hell in a handbasket. So it's just the way he shifted tone and it made it feel like it wasn't jarring was just brilliant. And I just, he's just got such a touch of hand, and that's his first full series he's commissioned. So just the fact that that's his first is insane. He's just had a real extraordinary passion and gift for understanding people's lives, ordinary people's lives, and even if they're going through something a bit weird, as in finding a family member who's they've never met before. He wrote the normal family, like Aaron and Sue and Paul, so well as well. They made it feel like a real family. So he's just got he's just got a really good hand on the pulse when it comes to writing real people, I think.
And what about working with your fellow cast? Because like you mentioned also at the beginning there about how kind of, layered and three-dimensional even all the other characters are as well. And it's not just a straightforward process of it being about Danny trying to fit into their world. Actually, him kind of coming with this completely different perspective changes them. And the way sort of, Samuel playing Aaron is kind of supposed to be teaching Danny about how to sort of fit in, but something it ends up kind of going back the other way. So, how did you work with them and perhaps develop those kind of on-screen relationships?
Well, I knew Sam before. Me and Sam did a job prior called Get Duked. So that was the chemistry was already there. So it was a very instinctive, natural thing with him. And I've also worked with even though I didn't have any scenes with her, I worked with Lisa before on a Channel 4 show before called Deadwater Fell. So I knew them both. So there was chemistry there already. But I think it was just about just trusting them. You know what I mean? Because you're in this process together and it's a team effort, but it was always that thing of, I think Johan said it best, everyone's got quite an energy about them. Even Danny, but his is really reserved and quiet. And what's fascinating is when Danny bounces it off Aaron, Sue, or Paul, or Steve, because they're a bit more projected energies. So it's just about trusting them, really, and just having that chemistry to know that you could have each other's backs for what you liked about seeing and what you didn't like, and then I'll go again and try this or whatever, and just instinctively trusting them. And also just slagging each other off. I slagged everybody off on this and made fun of everyone. So that probably helped, because I wasn't about this whole, we have to always be nice to each other and respectful. No, I was like, I'm going to slag you off every 2 minutes. But in a nice way, not in a mean way, but I did it that way, and that probably built chemistry.
But you're right, and because there is, despite the fact, we're dealing with kind of abuse and difficult circumstances for someone to go through, grief. But there are these moments of levity, and there are these, this kind of a deadpan humor, and just really these moments of insight of, how ridiculous it is when that kind of the toxic masculinity of trying to fit in, and make jokes that you don't even really mean, and think, and the way social media works, whatever. So that must have been also kind of fun to lean into.
Yeah, 100%. Because can't take life can be taken very seriously too much of the time. So if you don't have that chemistry and that joy on set, then you just will not want to do it anymore. Do you know what I mean? Because especially Somewhere Boy, because the show gets really dark really quick. So if I didn't have levity and moments of humor and banter or whatever, I would want to jump off a cliff personally, because it's just a lot. It's a lot of darkness, which is not always easy to portray. But so you need that balance of fun as well as the serious acting stuff.
And what do you think it does have to say about kind of being a young lad in this day and age? I mean, I guess it's kind of like there's something slightly timeless about the era it's set in, but it's kind of a reflection, isn't it, on however much we might make progress, and it could seem like, oh, you can sort of be whoever you want. There is still that pressure to fit in and kind of follow a certain way of doing things. And, you can't, like Aaron's character ultimately seems like a very good-hearted person, always having to force himself to try and be a different way. So what does that have to say about being a young man today?
It's really complicated and hard, because you want to fit in. You see, I think men are more like, it's weird because I think there's a lot of mental stuff with being a man today, because we're so exposed to stuff these days because of the internet and our phones, and even just like the sexualization of like Instagram and Twitter, because you can find it so easily, even just on like home pages and stuff, where men can see things, or either what a man does, like bodybuilding, gym, you have to go like this, or this is how you interact with women. It can just warp your mind a bit. And I think it's just a bit hard for men to, or young men anyway, to distinguish that, because it's so exposed in what even some of what TV and even the entertainment in TV is like, how men should act, how women should act, or how you flirt, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, it's just messed. It's like, it's hard for young men to, I think, really be themselves without feeling like, oh, if I expose myself in a certain way, I'll be perceived as weak or a coward, or many more horrible words that other boys say to each other. But I think it's just like a really hard thing for men to be themselves, but at the same time to live up to a certain image, and not they realize they don't have to, but they feel like they need to do, because lad culture is so ingrained in men, a lot of guys. So it's a very complex issue that it's just like, especially with the sexualization of stuff and how exposed women can get to everything now. So I think it's hard to not be, not hard to be distracted to take away yourself from that, because it's always there on your face.
And the other thing that I think sort of comes out of it is not only how kind of families, new families can form and be there for each other, but also how trying to do the right thing can end up sort of, doing the wrong thing, like the way Danny's father reacts. Like at the heart of it, he's trying to protect his son. But obviously,
Yeah.
the way he chooses to do that is in a very sort of dark and wrong way. But there's something human and sort of heart-wrenching in thinking about that. It's not just about a good versus bad, and villain kind of character. That. So how did
Yeah.
you see that decision that he made?
I think it was just that thing of just like, if you love someone so much and it's the only person you have in your life, you would do anything to protect them, even at the risk of damaging somebody. I always think that was like, he really cares about Danny. And it's just like, I think Steve was always fractured anyway, because it's made reference, I think, in one episode that they did go for a foster situation, and he had a bad foster upbringing compared to Sue. But I think, yeah, you care so much about one person in your life, and that's all you have. And if you lose that, you're broken. You just aren't. You cease to exist. And it's like any parent would do that for their children. They do anything to protect them, especially after a horrific loss of a partner or something like that. But sometimes you don't always think logically, and you do something that goes too far. And Steve loved Danny so much that he thought, I have to create this lie to keep him safe. And ultimately, it's just about love. It's messed up, I kind of love, but at the heart of it is just love and someone that cares about their son and wants to protect him, even if it's even if it goes too far.
And what do you ultimately hope in that sense people will take away from watching it? Because I guess there are all these elements in there. You know, sometimes it's going to make you smile. Sometimes it's very dark. It gives you the opportunity maybe to see the world through new eyes, through Danny's eyes. What do you hope people take away?
I just hope that you can take away that. I mean, there's a couple things. I mean, I'd like, even though it sounds really cheesy and cliche, and you hear it in these motivational videos sometimes, that really you can't just be yourself and you don't have to change, because I think society is really, really complex and difficult these days. And I just think, like, if people who feel disconnected or just don't feel like they fully fit in, they can watch the show and, yeah, it's not going to change their life, but just even just see that themselves a little bit and see, like, oh, I can be myself and I don't have to fit in. Why do people do the way things do? Why do people act the way they do and stuff like that? Hopefully, I think, yeah, just that feeling of being yourself. You know, the right people will come to you because they like you for you. Don't change who you are. And ultimately, there are monsters out there. It's just people. People do wrong. People, you know what I mean? People are just sometimes got ill intent, and they're willing to pry on people. So the real monster, there are monsters outside, just not the ones imagined. It's the ones in front of us sometimes.
And what about for you? How has this role kind of contrasted to ones you've done before? And how might this open up different opportunities? Or maybe you've got other things on the table already? I don't know.
I guess in terms of differences, I mean, I've done a lot of like, the few other TV things I've done has mainly just been like crime dramas and thrillers of sort of crime related. So I always play a suspect or involved in a crime, which is not that hard to imagine when you look like this. But it's just gave me a lot more emotional complexity that I've never had to do before, and I've really enjoyed that. And I really like playing roles that take me to a dark place. It's not always comfortable, but it's nice to do it. And it was a real fun thing, and I would love to do it again if there was a possibility for that. But in terms of other stuff, I've got a cameo in Masters of the Air, which is like the big World War II epic thing from Tom Hanks and Apple TV, and so it's another follow up to Steven Spielberg and Band Brothers and Pacific. So I've got that, and then I did a Paramount show where I'm playing another crime suspect called The Chemistry of Death, which will come out sometime next year. And other than that, I've just really been on the audition front, auditioning a lot, trying to get the next opportunity. I think this part has certainly, at least at the moment, feels like gave me more opportunities because every week's like really busy. So it's been nice, but it's also been a bit like, wow, this is really full on. So yeah, but it's come from this. I think I'd like to think it's come from doing something like this.
And in terms of pipe dreams, is there any like kind of genre you'd love to be in, or director you want to work with, or actor?
Oh, I'd love to do some sort of. I'd like to do some sort of Bond thing. Maybe not Bond because that'd be way too much pressure. But even if I could play like one of his like M or something like that, or an assistant, or just like one of like the villain's bodyguards who gets killed within the first 5 minutes, I'd be happy with that. And then eventually Star Wars. If I mean, because the universe is so big and expansive, and I love it. I think it's just a great universe, and I'm a big fan of the film. So if there was anything, literally, even again, Jedi gets killed in the first 2 minutes, I'd be happy with that. So those were probably the two dreams.
Amazing. Well, I think they're recruiting, aren't they, for the next Bond? You might even make the title role. Who knows?
Uh, I'd be very long down the list. There's probably a lot more people before me, but we'll see.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me, and really can't wait for everyone else to have a chance to see Somewhere Boy. Thanks so much.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Nice to chat to you. Thank you. Bye.
Nice chatting to you. Thank you.